My son and his wife were in need of some repairs on their home before they could move in together. Initially, our relationship was solid, but things took a turn when my daughter-in-law began to disregard the rules we had set for our home. These rules were quite straightforward: cleanliness, nighttime noise levels, and most importantly, a strict ban on alcohol due to my wife's past trauma. Despite our clear communication about these guidelines, it became apparent over time that they were not being followed. As the weather turned colder, suspicions arose that they were secretly indulging in alcohol within our home. Matters reached a boiling point when my wife stumbled upon a bottle of wine hidden away in the attic. Infuriated by this discovery, she disposed of it, only to find out later that it was a pricey $300 bottle. The ensuing argument between her and our daughter-in-law only served to exacerbate tensions. Following the completion of the renovations, they moved out, but the strain in our relationship lingered. Sensing the need for some space and time to cool off, I suggested a temporary separation. However, it was during this period that my son delivered the news that we were to be cut off from seeing our beloved grandkids. He cited the wine incident as a catalyst for reevaluating our relationship. Faced with this ultimatum, I couldn't help but express my frustration. It seemed unjust that my son would overlook the stress his actions caused his mother, my wife. As tensions rose, I felt compelled to remind him of the consequences of his decision. I made it clear that severing ties with us would result in his exclusion from the family will, igniting yet another heated argument. While some may perceive my stance as rigid, I firmly believe in upholding boundaries and mutual respect within our family dynamic. The incident involving the wine was just one example of a pattern of disregard for our household rules. By imposing consequences for their actions, I strive to uphold the integrity of our family values and foster a sense of accountability. You didn't even consider asking them to leave after they blatantly disregarded your rules. If they had a legitimate reason for keeping that expensive wine in the house during renovations, such as security concerns, they should have communicated that with you instead of sneaking it around. Their reaction of punishing you for enforcing simple rules seems entirely unwarranted. Your son and his wife are displaying a sense of entitlement that is quite concerning. In my opinion, if they were so eager to drink, they could have easily gone to a bar, restaurant, or even a friend's place. Assuming they're of legal drinking age, finding a place to enjoy a drink shouldn't have been a problem. It's baffling that they would risk breaking the rules for the sake of alcohol. Moreover, if they could afford a $300 bottle of wine, surely they could afford to dine out instead. The daughter-in-law's decision to bring alcohol into your home against your wishes is incredibly disrespectful. It raises questions about her judgment, especially if she couldn't respect your rules for just a few months. It's hard to believe that she would be spending such a large sum on a single bottle of wine, considering the circumstances. People who genuinely appreciate fine wine wouldn't hide it away in the attic. They would treat it with the respect it deserves. However, I find it hard to believe that someone would stash a $300 bottle of wine in the attic under these circumstances. It's more likely that the wine wasn't as expensive as claimed. Unless they are incredibly wealthy, it's unusual to splurge on such an expensive bottle for casual consumption. These responses seem overly harsh given the situation. There were likely more constructive ways to address the issue without resorting to extreme measures. Perhaps a serious conversation or warning would have sufficed initially. It's possible that there's more to the story that we're not aware of, as the situation appears somewhat one-sided and murky. I believe that hearing the son or daughter-in-law's perspective could offer valuable insight into their decision to restrict access to the grandkids over a bottle of wine. However, it seems like there may be additional factors at play here that the original poster hasn't disclosed. It's possible that original poster is only providing selective information, leaving out crucial details that could provide a clearer picture of the situation. This situation appears to be more complex than what's been presented. Update: after reaching out to my sister to determine the price of the wine, it turns out that it was not a $300 bottle as initially claimed, but rather around $25. Upon confronting my son about this discrepancy, I learned that there was actually a case of wine in the attic worth $300, which he had removed when he realized my wife had only found one bottle. It seems there was miscommunication regarding the amount of wine present. Additionally, my wife was cleaning out the attic to make space for a new Christmas tree, not rummaging through our daughter-in-law's belongings in the guest room, as some may have assumed. This revelation sheds new light on the situation, suggesting that there may have been misunderstandings rather than deliberate deceit. Prior to the wine incident, our relationship with our son and daughter-in-law was positive, evidenced by our willingness to let them stay with us. It's unlikely they would have chosen to stay if our relationship was truly strained. On a separate note, I'm experiencing ongoing tension with my sister's husband, who has harbored animosity towards me since we first met. Despite my efforts to understand his behavior, it remains a mystery to me. My parents initially questioned my sister about his behavior, but she assured them that he would never mistreat me. However, the issue has not been addressed further since then. He intentionally excludes me from everything, from gifts to vacations to fancy dinners. He spoils my family, yet I never get included. Anyway, I had a couple of job interviews lined up in my sister's town, and she kindly offered me to stay at their house for a few nights instead of traveling back and forth. After spending the first night with them, I went to shower in the morning. Suddenly, there was a loud banging on the door, and her husband demanded to know what I was doing. I calmly explained that I was showering and would be finished soon. However, he continued banging on the door, yelling that I should gather my belongings and leave, accusing me of being entitled, bratty, and disrespectful to his home. I was shaken by his aggressive behavior and didn't know how to react. It's worth noting that they have multiple bathrooms, and initially, I thought he was upset that I used his specifically. But it soon became apparent that he didn't want me using any of the bathrooms. I left the bathroom feeling upset and threatened, my clothes still wet from the shower. In a state of panic, I threatened to call the police on him for his intimidating behavior. This only seemed to further enrage him, and I reached out to my sister in tears. She managed to defuse the situation upon returning from work. However, she now believes that threatening to involve the police was excessive. She and my parents think I overreacted. I've tried explaining multiple times that I genuinely felt scared in that moment and acted out of panic. Am I the idiot in this situation? Edit. My parents know he excludes me, but they don't care. My sister pretends everything is fine and calls me crazy and sensitive when I tell her how rude he is. Not the idiot. If you genuinely fear for your safety, calling the police is the right move. You were an invited guest, and you weren't doing him any wrong. It sounds like your sister's husband is just plain rude, though, and he obviously waited until your sister wasn't around. Start recording these incidents and confront them with the evidence. Get to the bottom of this. Have you considered the possibility that he's inexplicably rude to you because your sister has told him something about you that would make him resent you? Your sister has sibling bonds to keep her possible resentment in check. He does not. It would also explain why she's not reacting to his abuse. From what I've read, the simple fact is that he treats you horribly. Your family knows, and they don't care. This is dangerous for you. Can you move out and distance yourself? Also, if you do move out, don't give them your address. I would say not to give it to sis or brother-in-law, but I'm sure that if either of them asks your parents, they'll get it from them. Is this a reach? Is it exactly what I was thinking? Your sister is 11 years your senior. She was 11 or 12 when you were born. Suddenly, she goes from being the prized daughter to the one with expectations on her. Maybe she viewed you as the golden baby who stole all of mom and dad's attention, that without you, her life would have been so much better. It could be none of that is true, but it could be a point of view that she could never voice around your family but could rant about to him, turning him against you before you ever met him. Original poster, be careful. No happy stories start with what you are describing. A friend of mine is a butcher. He gets all kinds of meats and sometimes less desired ones recently. He obtained a surplus of horse meat, knowing it's not a popular choice and often goes to waste, so he gave it to me. I typically feed my dog a raw diet consisting of 80% raw meat and 20% vegetables, occasionally preparing it in more unconventional ways. Yesterday, I decided to make an omelet filled with horse meat for my dog. While waiting for it to cool down, my girlfriend came downstairs, saw the omelets, and complained about my lack of variety in cooking. She then impulsively grabbed the plate, stating she was going to eat it. Despite my warnings, she insisted and took a bite, only to realize there was meat inside and promptly spat it out. Angered, She accused me of tricking her into eating dog food and gave me the silent treatment for the rest of the day. I'm torn whether I'm in the wrong here for not disclosing the presence of horse meat. However, she knew it was intended for the dog, so her actions were inconsiderate. Moreover, horse meat is consumed in various cultures, although less so in the US due to differing cultural perspectives on horses. On another note, while it's true that some cultures consume horse meat, it's not a common practice everywhere, and its popularity is declining, particularly in areas where horse riding is prevalent. Regarding her complaint about me not making omelets for her, it's true that I prioritize cooking for my dog, but her reaction to the situation seems disproportionate. I did warn her about the contents of the omelet, albeit indirectly, and she chose to disregard it. Ultimately, I'm unsure if I mishandled the situation or if her reaction was unjustified. My father has never been one to hold down a steady job, relying instead on the child support payments my mom provides, which amount to a hefty $70,000 per year. Even though I only spend weekends at his place, the experience has become increasingly frustrating for me. You see, he's remarried now, with 2 kids of his own living with him, and their living conditions aren't exactly up to par. Add to that the fact that I have to endure a 45-minute drive each way, which means sacrificing time with my friends. It's either too far away to hang out with them, or I'm stuck in my father's tiny 2-bedroom apartment, where tensions with his new wife often run high. Frustrated with the situation, I decided to have a chat with my mom. I asked her if there was any way to tweak the custody agreement so she wouldn't have to continue shelling out child support, and I wouldn't have to endure those dreaded weekend visits. After navigating through a maze of legal procedures, I found myself in front of a judge, articulating my dissatisfaction with spending weekends at my father's place due to the inferior living conditions and strained relationships. After what felt like an eternity of legal wrangling, the outcome was somewhat favorable. I now only have to visit my dad once a month, which suits me just fine since he wasn't exactly the poster child for quality time during our weekend visits anyway. As a result, the child support payments were significantly reduced. But here's the silver lining. My resourceful mom used some of the saved funds to buy me a shiny new car. It was a much-needed upgrade after my old one met its demise in an unfortunate encounter with a speeding driver. However, while I was celebrating my newfound freedom and wheels, my dad was seething with anger. You see, without the full child support payments, he's now staring down the barrel of potential homelessness. His prospects of finding gainful employment are limited, given his prolonged absence from the workforce and our location in a high-cost living area. You're definitely not the idiot here. The real idiot is your father. He not only failed to provide for you but also relied on your child support money, which is utterly unacceptable. His current predicament of not making enough money and facing potential homelessness is entirely his own doing. While it's true that his current wife and kids might face some difficulties due to his incompetence, I believe they'll manage to find a solution eventually. You shouldn't blame yourself for suggesting changes to the custody agreement and reducing child support. You did what was best for you, showing wisdom and maturity beyond your years. Despite having weekend custody, your father couldn't even bother to be present, without the excuse of work getting in the way. Frankly, he should have been working instead of coasting along. It's evident that your dad thought he had it easy, but reality has caught up with him. He might find himself single again soon if he doesn't get his act together. It seems he's more upset about the money drying up than not seeing you. If you're old enough for your opinion to matter, you're likely close to aging out of the custody arrangement anyway. If he didn't have a plan for this situation, it's entirely his fault. You did what was right for yourself, which ultimately benefited your mom. Your dad should reflect on why one of his children dislikes spending time at his place so much instead of blaming you for his and his wife's failures in providing for their own kids. As for your girlfriend, her behavior was completely out of line. Accusing you of cheating and starting an unnecessary argument ruined what should have been an enjoyable weekend. It's understandable that she has insecurities due to past experiences, but that doesn't justify her actions. Trust and communication are vital in a relationship, and her behavior breached that trust. She owes you a sincere apology and a commitment to work on her insecurities in a healthier manner. I've been eagerly anticipating a getaway with my close friends in a couple of weeks, a chance to unwind and reconnect after what feels like ages apart. Naturally, I shared my excitement with my girlfriend, who responded with an expression of missing me during my absence. However, mindful of our past experience, I gently reminded her of the importance of trust and respect. You see, during my previous trip with friends, there were unsettling incidents. She seemed to deliberately ignite arguments, casting a shadow over what was meant to be a joyous occasion. This time around, I expressed my hope for a smooth and enjoyable weekend but made it clear that a repeat of such behavior would jeopardize our relationship. Her reaction caught me off guard. She accused me of dredging up past grievances needlessly and likened my expression of concern to an ultimatum. Despite my attempts to reassure her of my anticipation for the upcoming trip, she remained adamant, insisting that I had mishandled the situation. Reflecting on her response, I can't help but wonder if I overstepped. Was it wrong of me to set boundaries based on past experiences? Should I have addressed my concerns differently? The last thing I want is to undermine the trust between us or appear controlling. But at the same time, I can't ignore the importance of open communication and mutual respect in a healthy relationship.